Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down. Unfortunately, we are still playing a little bit of catch-up around this show. I have to watch the latest episode, which dropped last night. I was going to try to wake up early, but the way my day was, I was up early for What If yesterday, then I was down in Red Bank to hit movies for the movies pop-up for lunch. By the time I got home, it was mad late. I had no gas. I had to go to sleep, so catching up with last week's episode right now, and hopefully by the end of the weekend, I'll have the latest episode up, and you'll have all my thoughts and all my reactions to all 4 episodes that we have gotten thus far. But before we go there, we gotta get caught up on what I think so far is the best episode through the first 3, and I'm pretty pumped to talk about it. So why don't you pull up a chair, take a seat, we're getting ready to dive in spoiler-free, and then a little spoilery into American Horror Story Double Feature Part 1 Red Tide Episode 3. And as I said, I think this is my favorite of the season to date. And one of the biggest reasons for that, Miss Leslie Grossman gets to have a lot of fun this episode. Coming in as Finn Wittrock's character Harry's manager, I believe. I don't think she's an agent. I think she's a manager. If it's not that, then she's an agent, not a manager. But I think she's the manager. And this episode brings her to the Cape to check in on Harry and lets her kind of start to get a feel for what's going on. And I personally just really love Leslie Grossman. She can really bring that bitch attitude that you need sometimes, and specifically with a role like this, like she's crushing that stuff. But she also brings lots of laughs. I mean, just the way that she interacts with people, specifically in this episode, the way she interacts with folks at the bar that we've been to. So she has a small interaction with Evan Peters' Austin and Francis Conroy's Belle Noir. I'm going to try to use names this review, because last review I just used all their real names, character names. But she has brief interactions with Austin and Belle, and then spends a pretty significant amount of time with Macaulay Culkin's Micky. And all of her interactions and just what she brings this episode is phenomenal stuff. I love it so much. And it was like that little bit of an extra boost that the first 2 episodes were kind of lacking on. And I don't think this has anything to do with Lily Rabe moving more to the backseat and, Grossman coming up. I also love Rabe, and I'm sure she's going to have some big-time moments toward the end of this season with just things that are going on with her. But for me, this episode, Grossman was a wonderful standout addition, and it gave Culkin more time on screen as Micky, which I absolutely love. And the other thing that I thought was really working this episode is, one, Murphy kept me on my toes. I got hit with a surprise midway that it was like, you felt like something was coming, but you didn't know what it was going to be. And then when you found out what it was, I was like, oh snap, I didn't see that coming. And that whole sequence I really enjoyed, which features Wittrock's Harry. But I think my favorite thing from the entire episode is up at the top. We get a couple interactions between Harry and Alma, played by Ryan Kiera Armstrong. And Harry and Alma, they've got some stuff going on this week in their father-daughter relationship as it grows and evolves based on the things that we saw at the end of episode 2. And it's one of those things where, Harry and Alma are definitely seeing eye to eye on certain things, and they're willing to kind of work through some problems. And the things that they kind of work through, how that then plays out for the rest of the episode, I just thought played perfectly. And they have 2 conversations. They have one in the car, which I really enjoyed, and then they got one at the restaurant that is just absolutely phenomenal. And this episode in general is pretty baller for Alma. Like, where she ends up at the end of this episode, second straight episode at the end, Alma's got stuff going on where I'm like, yeah, give me more of this, I want to see where we go to next. And what's cool is you can see how Murphy is crafting this shorter story arc where it's like, yeah, we're only 3 eps in so far, but you can already see how it's picking up for potential showdowns by the time this part of the story wraps up. So I really liked everything, man. I mean, lots of stuff was working. The humor was great. We get more musical moments from Peters and Conroy, which is wonderful. I could literally watch those 2 do karaoke all night long. And like I said, the way Grossman plays into all that this time around, fantastic stuff. Yeah, just everything we got this episode I thought really kind of hit quite well. And like I said, the addition of having Grossman around a little bit more definitely enhanced it, and that elevated the story. Like, where the story is going heading into episode 4, I am like really locked in and so here for it. I know some of you guys have probably already seen episode 4, so don't spoil anything for me. I'm hoping to get that watched by the end of the day or sometime tomorrow probably. But yeah, I mean, this episode was just really, really working for me. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get the Sea Maniacs up. There they are. Let's give it a score. As I said, the inclusion of Ursula more this episode just gives Leslie Grossman tons of stuff to do. She's always a gem on screen. Really, I thought elevated everything that was going on this week. Same with Macaulay Culkin. Being a hardcore fan from the days of Home Alone, I love that he's back, acting somewhere and doing stuff. And he is really having a good time with Micky, and he gets some real nice stuff in this episode. Whitrock and Kira Armstrong knock it out. I love what's going on with their father-daughter relationship, and I love how those 3 stories in particular kind of have advanced the plot to a place where I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to see what's next. And everything else technically that we know we're going to get from the show has been great. Not as many string instrumentals this time around. Alma doesn't do a ton of violin practicing, but the score always working. So for me, I like this one a little bit better than the first 2, so I'm going to go 4 out of 5 Sea Maniacs for American Horror Story Double Feature Part 1 Red Tide Episode 3. I like the way the season is progressing. Outside of just Episode 2, I liked Episode 2 a lot, just didn't quite hit as much as 1. But for the most part, I think the season is on an upward tick where we're kind of improving, and the story now it's picking up steam, and I'm pumped to see where we go. But that's it from the non-spoiler side. So if you have not seen the episode, you don't want spoilers, you got it. You don't have to go home, but you gotta get the heck up out of here, man. But first and foremost, before I dive in top to bottom on this episode, it's time for you to take a look at the reactions of the old Seaman from when he was watching American Horror Story Double Feature Part 1 Red Tide Episode 3. Take it away, Pat Seaman! Oh, no. Oh, jeez. Oh no. The 2 of them are gonna see that stockpile of blood like, yeah, let me get some.
I don't know if I can do that.
That's the price of being the greatest.
Then you have to stop too.
Knew she was gonna say that. Just got her hand out. I was waiting for you to break, Daddy.
Do live performances year-round. You can't go off them for any long stretch.
I don't mind. I feel better on him.
So messed
You're
up.
still growing. I mean, we don't... I'm really sorry.
Oh no! I knew there was something weird about that girl. Oh no.
That's where your asshole goes from being an innie to being an out.
Honestly, I don't get it either, but
Got him. Oh, nice. Well done, sir. About it. Those sharp teeth really help, man.
It does not feel right to me. So, on my very long drive out here, I got a call. It's already greenlit at Hulu, sight unseen.
There's the Hulu sign.
And so, it's harder for him to do what he has to do to write things, and that you would understand what that means and why he wants you to write it.
Oh, shoot. Oh, man. How long has this black pill been around? Oh, please be Peters. Conroy again. Yes.
Yes, it's over. Call it a day. No reason to pretend.
So good. He's so good.
Too much, too little, too late to lie again with you.
Do they have... If I wanted to listen to a shitty Captain and Tennille cover band, I would have just killed myself, because I'm sure that's what's playing on an infinite loop in hell.
Oh no, she's so gonna get eaten.
To the romance novels that Belle's written when the Wi-Fi went down. meth head fuck.
That's a gruesome shot. Oh, I love it. I love it. Oh, yes. Love him.
Yeah. Oh, I saw the whole thing.
Now please, make this easy for both of us.
Oh, got her. Oh, man. Daddy's gonna come home to it. Grossman's been asleep this whole time? Jesus. It's a great shot.
Daddy, I like how
Oh,
to
duh. Grossman knows about it. Oh, the next episode is gonna be wild. There you go. I told you there was plenty of laughs this time around. The things that Grossman added, and just the way that she interacts with people, specifically Micky this episode, I enjoyed myself a lot watching the episode. But now that you've seen how I've reacted, let's just go top to bottom, man, and just talk about the entire episode. And we start right at the top with Doris, Lily Rabe's character. We get a little bit of her up top, and she is in the process of trying to clean Alma's face. And the way that she has been, afraid of Lyme disease the entire first 2 episodes. Yes, Lyme does come up here, but she also brings up rabies and several other things that could potentially be going, down with Alma after eating a rabbit. But the way she is cleaning her face, it's almost like she's trying to scrub something that's not there away. A lot of times in the movies you see when people kill someone or something like that and they get blood on their hands, they're the blood's gone but they can't get it off. Rabe is doing that to Alma's face. She's wiping it and it's clean, but she's just still going. And she freaks out on Harry. You let her go out. Now she's eating rabbits. What is happening? What is with this place? We can't be here anymore. And she could have rabies, she could have Lyme disease. There's all sorts of things. We gotta take her to the doctor. And while she's kind of spiraling out as she's trying to clean Alma, you're getting, like I said, I love the Harry Alma stuff this episode. And as it's going down and Whitrock comes in and sees what's happening, you see a moment where Harry and Alma lock eyes. And you're okay, they have an entire conversation without saying any words while Rabe is kind of spinning out. And it's one of these yeah, we're going to have a talk, little lady. But before we can even get anywhere like that, the chief shows up. Apparently people reported seeing Alma down by the cemetery with blood on her face and then seeing Rabe hurry her away. So the chief comes in just to see what's going on. But when she shows up, naturally, Doris is Harry, you take care of this. I'm going to take her upstairs, try to not be seen. And as they go upstairs and the chief comes in, it doesn't take Chief Burleson too long to figure, some things out. And Dina Porter, she's so good. As soon as she comes in, she's talking to Harry. It's I know you guys are up there. I just want to talk to Alma. There's some weird stuff going on. And Rabe is very apprehensive, but nevertheless, she's can you bring her down, please? And, it's one of those, I think Doris is just afraid of what might happen to Alma when the chief starts talking to her. And the chief wants to talk to her alone. Doesn't want either of the parents around. And as Rabe is bringing her down, she suffers a stress contraction and kind of ends up it catches her off guard so much, just takes her legs out and she falls down the stairs. Now, it's not a horrible fall down the stairs, but nevertheless, as pregnant as she is, I want to say she's 7 months, maybe 8, super scary. And when we get to the hospital, you find out that she's had miscarriages before. So the immediate reaction from Harry is get an ambulance. And we get, our opening credit sequence and we take Doris to the hospital. And it's one of those things where you've got all 3 of them in this room and the doctor is just kind of going through everything and is look, everything's okay. The baby's fine. Doris is fine, but considering that she's had miscarriages in the past and where we are in the pregnancy, we'd like her to take it super easy, and we'd like to evaluate her here a little bit longer. And Harry is totally okay with that. Doris seems to be all right with it, but Doris wants Harry to take Alma home. Get out of here, go somewhere else. I think first they're not in the hospital, must be set a little ways away. The show doesn't really nail that down super clean, but it seems that one's a little bit further away, and she wants them to get a motel in the area. And Harry's like, that's ridiculous. I'm not going to do that, because Harry knows I got to go back to the Cape, man, so I can keep cranking out gold and deal with whatever's going on with Alma. But what he does is he just reassures, Doris that, like, you know what, I'm going to take her back to New York. We'll take her to New York. You stay in the hospital for now, and things will be fine. And she's like, cool. They kind of have a nice embrace. Alma, at one point during all this, is like, Daddy, I got to go to the bathroom. And they're like, okay, it's down that way. As she walks out of the room, there's a cart with just bags of blood all over it. And you just see Alma just go. And, like, she's not, but you can tell, like, she's almost salivating. She wants it so bad. Harry catches it and is like, Alma, kind of has to snap her out of it. He's like, it's over that way. And then we hop back into the car and we're heading back to the Cape. And immediately Alma realizes that they're not going toward New York. And she's like, Dad, this isn't the way back to New York. And he's like, I know. And she's like, but you told Mom we were going to New York. He's like, well, I told Mom what she needed to hear. Like, she has a lot of stress going on, and with the baby being so close, I don't want to, like, worry her, but, like, I need to go back to the Cape. And considering what's happening with you right now, I'm bringing you with me. And he kind of starts to go into, like, how he doesn't think he's being a great father for her, and like, just wants to know what's going on. And she's like, well, I saw you take the drug, and I know you started writing all this stuff, and I was struggling with Paganini, so I popped a pill, and now Paganini is a breeze. Like, I don't even have to think twice to, like, knock it out perfectly. And she's like, it's one of these things where, like, I just feel like there are people who have talent, and then there are people that don't. And those people that don't have talent, they could just disappear and it wouldn't matter. And Harry is like, well, that's what this drug does. It enhances, if you have, greatness or a talent already inside of you, it unlocks that so you can reach your full potential. And if you don't have any talent, you look and turn into those pale white guys. But he's like, that's the thing. Like, you were already great. And she's like, well, I don't want to be great. I want to be the greatest. And he's like, well, you start with a rabbit. What's going to happen, later on? She kind of puts together, like, did you kill that guy underneath the dock? She's like, I don't think I could do that. And he's like, I don't want you to. So he's like, look, you've now understood and you've seen and you can feel what your true potential feels like. Now, if you just take that as kind of like what you work towards, or what, kind of have it in your back pocket, like, I know what it feels like to be the greatest, you take that with you and just apply it as you go, and no more pills. I don't want you to take them ever, ever again. And Alma is, not about that. She wants to, take the pills, but she's like, fine, I'll stop if you stop, Dad. And, wanting to be a good father, Harry's like, fine, I'll stop. Like, I've already written an entire series, but, like, at the end of the last episode, he's got a gig now to write something for Tarantino. So the next day, we see, Harry's back at it, trying to write. And he's just sitting there, and it's much like the first episode, just that blinking little line on the page. And as it's kind of just sitting there, he finally is like, screw it. He looks around, doesn't see anybody. He goes, he takes a pill out, and he pops it. And, like, he knew it was coming too. As soon as he spins around, there's Alma. Where's mine, Daddy? And they basically now are in this place where it's like, okay, I guess we're going to do this. And so after she takes the pill, we get my favorite scene of the entire episode, where Harry takes her out for dinner. They both order like ultra rare steaks, and then have one of these conversations about, like, what this means. It's like, for you, you're gonna have to take the pill all the time. Like, I could take the pill for 3 months. I could stockpile scripts that'll survive throughout the entire year, and that's all I need. Then I don't have to use the pill the other 9 months. But you're constantly going to have recitals and be going places and maybe competing or auditioning. Like, it's going to be nonstop. You're going to have to take this pill all the time. And the more you take it, like, that thirst, that craving for blood is more and more. And he's like, I don't want you doing that ever. So he's like, you do not consume any blood that does not come from me. I will go out when you're hungry and I'll get whatever you need. And it's like this really adult conversation. And, you have, Whitrock, who's just crushing all season long. But then you also bring in, Kira Armstrong here, who, like I said, has been really, really super talented for a little girl, man. Like, she's very adult. Yeah, she's a little odd, but it totally works with her character. And just having this back and forth that's so adult, like, it really just elevates what you're getting out of Alma as a character. And she's like, well, I'm glad we got here, Dad, because I'm hungry now. So, they naturally go home, and you see Harry drive off out to the outskirts of town, and he comes up on this house. It kind of looks like it's in the middle of nowhere. He knocks, looks like some cracked out woman is in there, and she's selling like random stuff, like a Blu-ray player and like one other random thing. So Harry's following the rules that you had Austin and Belle kind of laid out for him on how to pick his targets. And he goes in, and she, first she's like real apprehensive, asks to see his ID. Then she brings him in, and she like goes to what you think is gonna be the Blu-ray player, but then turns around and is like, "You're cute, you want to fool around." Like she's getting all like sexual. She's only got like her panties and a short top on, and Harry's just like, "Look, I'm sorry." She's like, "Sorry," like he like just saying no. He's like, "No, like I'm really sorry." And he's starting to take out his blade. He's about to kill this woman. And the entire scene, like the minute she opens the door, you're just like, something is off with this crackhead. Like we've met like 3 other crackheads on the outskirts of town, and like I didn't feel apprehensive or like something was wrong, but something doesn't feel right. And the next thing you know, boom, butt of a gun to the back of Harry's head, and he wakes up in a cell, chained, no pants, he's just in his boxers, no shirt, he's just in his like tank top, and he is in this cell. And like up on the wall is like rules where it's like you will always obey your master, no matter what they say, you will do it. Like you'll be a good servant, like all these things, like basically for some, like you can tell these people clearly are kidnapping people. And you're like, geez, what did Harry just stumble into? And next thing you know, like he kind of, after he comes to, goes to the door, sees there's like a piece of glass. There's something in the room that he's able to just break it with, and he starts yelling. The guy's like, "What are you doing breaking the glass?" He's like, "What is this? Not like what is happening right now?" And the girl basically is like, "Look, we make snuff films, so you're gonna die tonight. But before you die, you're gonna have some fun. So here, take this Viagra." And like Harry's like, "What? No." And she's like, "Look, we figured out that people don't just want snuff; they want more than that. So this is how it's gonna go down. My boyfriend here, he's gonna bend you over, and he's gonna." Do some things to you. The Viagra for you is so that you can do some things to me." And there's a very, very graphic description of what they are trying to do to Harry prior to killing him for this snuff film. And they pull him out and they throw him on to like this bench, and he's just kind of bent over, and he's cuffed, and he's just in trouble. So the next thing you know is like they stop paying attention to him to start shooting the beginning of the movie, and she's like, "Oh, we got one for you here." And while that's going on, he takes his fake teeth off, he tears through the ropes, and then the next thing you know is they're going, wah! Like I think he knocks the dude down, just rips into the girl's throat, knocks her down, and I think he goes, or maybe he jumps her first, kind of throws her down. Homeboy tries to shoot him, he knocks the gun away from him, picks the gun up, shoots the dude once, maybe twice, and as he's just kind of sitting, he has this conversation about like, "I'm going to bleed her dry, but you I'm going to let bleed out real slow." And that's obviously the blood that he's going to get for Alma. And he's like, "But since you're not going anywhere for the foreseeable future, I'm going to finish my dinner." And he just goes to town on the girl, and then we get back home, and he's delivering what looks almost like tomato soup to Alma, except it looks exactly like blood. And she's eating the blood just like any kind of soup. And as that's all going on, there's a knock at the door. And he goes to it, and who's there but Ursula? And he's like, "Oh, Jesus, Ursula, what are you doing here?" And she's like, "Well, you came up here and started producing gold, like better than anything you've ever given me before. I needed to see what it was all about. Plus, like, you're away. I wanted to check in on you." And you can kind of tell, like, even though she's hard-assed and hard-nosed, like, it seems like her and Harry have a decent working relationship with each other. And now that he's producing, like, really good content, she's like, "Well, this might be a star, so I'm going to go check in on him." And he's got blood on his hands, and she's like, "Are you bleeding?" He's like, "Oh, no, spaghetti sauce." She's like, "Spaghetti sauce?" She's like, "Well, look, Doris is in the hospital." I think Ursula knew that, which was another reason why she came up. And I'm not real good in the kitchen, so it's like I'm not good at this stay-at-home stuff. So like it was like ice cream or cookies or spaghetti, so I went with spaghetti. And that's kind of his spin. So she's like, "All right, cool. Well, I'm in town for a few days, so I'll be around. I'll come back. I'll let you guys do whatever you're doing. Just tell me where I can go get something to eat." And he's like, "Well, there's only one restaurant in the entire town." And he directs Ursula to the bar where we've seen, of course, Austin and Belle Noir singing karaoke. And she's like, "Great, I will check in on you, in a day or so." go about like whatever you got going on, and she heads off to dinner. And this is where we get to go back to a little Peters Conroy duet karaoke, style. Although it's not really, it's like karaoke, but not really. There's no like karaoke machine. It's just some dude playing the piano and they're just singing. And once again, much like that first episode, they let it go like through like 2 whole sets for both. Like you get a whole like verse from Austin, you get a whole verse from Belle almost, and they get into the bridge, and like you get like 2 solid minutes of these two singing, and every single time they do it is so freaking entertaining. I mean, Evan Peters is just so damn good, and Conroy really adds a nice flavor to their performance. And while Grossman is there, I think she first is at the bar. And while she's at the bar, Micky comes up to her, much like he did Harry, and she's like, "I'm not interested in any of this stuff that you got going on." And he's like, No, you don't understand. Like, I got these screenplays. Like, I want you to look at these. Like, I hear you're like an agent, or a manager. And she's like, I'm not no. And he just kind of like begs her, and she kind of throws him off and is like, "Can I go sit down?" Like, cool. She goes to a table, and you have these two singing, and at one point she just starts kind of ripping on him. And she's like, "If I wanted to go see a crappy, like Captain and Tennille, I would not have come here." And they kind of like stop, and you can tell, like, I think even in my reaction, I was like, "Oh man, like Ursula's gonna die now. Like, you don't cross those two." And then from there we kind of see her leave, and as she's walking on the beach, Micky comes running after her a second time, and she's like, "Dude, leave me alone." Like, he's like, No, you don't understand. Like, like these are really good. Like, I really want you to read these. Like, this is my one and only shot. Like, there's never anybody from Hollywood out here. Like just give it a read. And she's like, "You know what? Fine. If it'll make you leave me alone, give me your friggin' screenplays, and I'll friggin' use them to kindle the fire later." And he hands her like notebook pages instead of like typed out stuff. And she's like, "You gotta be kidding me." Puts them in her bag, and like as Micky's walking away, he's like, just don't actually burn them, right? But you kind of get this moment where like Culkin has like pure joy on his face, like, holy crap, I'm gonna get a shot. Like, I know if she reads these, it's gonna be gold. And she goes back, and you see her in her room, and she is reading, and like it only takes her like the first page, and she's like, you can tell just in her face that like this stuff is really, really good. So she meets him back at the restaurant again the next morning, and basically is like, "Look, these are A+ scripts ready to go right now. Like, I'd have people that want to make these right away, but I'm not stupid. Like, I don't know any junkie who's got crack running through their veins that can write a script that is just ready to go, no revisions." And she's like, and my guy, he's always been an okay guy. And like, she kind of sets up like what you would be headed toward is like this. She's like, there are people with talent in Hollywood. There are people that are like a little bit less talented but can still produce like things that will go out places, and there are people that will end up in the same writers' rooms and just be recycled over and over and over again. She's like, and if you're any kind of writer, you're one of them. You're not somebody who writes gold. So you gotta tell me what's going on here, because even my guy, who used to be in those writers' rooms, is now turning out gold. And Micky, kind of comes clean. He's like, there's a pill. You take this pill. If you have talent, it opens it up. If you don't have talent, then that's what those pale people are. And she's like, almost like she had a feeling like something like this was going on. And as you understand, like a little later on, with the Tarantino bit, like, when she tells Harry earlier, rather, that Tarantino wants him to write a script, he's like, Tarantino, he writes all his own. She's like, not anymore. You're going to do his limited series. And then she, like, kind of makes a nod and, like, a reference to, like, the fact that, like, oh, man, he said he's aware of this area and, like, knows how it inspires, and said to kind of say what's up. And it's like, wait a minute, so Tarantino is taking this pill? How long has this pill been around? How many people know? And if that's the vibe, like, maybe Ursula did have a feeling that maybe something like this was going on. Maybe she had caught rumblings earlier. Maybe Tarantino told it to her then. So when she gets Micky to break, she's like, well, okay, cool. I will help you out, but I need you to go find the supply. You find the supply, you find the person who does all these, and you bring them to me, and we'll make a deal happen. And that's kind of where she leaves it. And we go to Belle after that, leaving her house, and she has a red porch light on her house. So now considering what we saw in the first porch, like the first episode with the red lights, maybe those are people, like that's a way for other writers to know like that's what's going on in those houses. I don't know. There's something weird with these red lights. But now knowing that Belle has one, it's not just regular people. Maybe it's an insider's thing. But we see her leave. She gets into the car. And as she's getting to the car, Harry is breaking into her house because Ursula wants more pills as well as the chemist. So he goes in and like a good junkie, shakes some out and then like refluffs the bag so it looks sort of the same, like nothing had left it than what was in there, and he puts it back in the drawer and he leaves. And then we see Belle, Austin, and Harry are in the car, and they are on their way to go do a kill. And as they get to the house and they knock on the door, like one person opens it, and then like he's, like I said, everybody they go to, man, is crackhead. And he's totally cracked out. And then you get this woman who's also cracked out that comes, out from behind him. And then there's a third guy coming out from like one of the hallways. And I think it's Austin. It's just like, ooh, man, it's going to be a buffet here. Like, this is great. And Harry, Belle, and Austin each get their own person to suck dry. And as they're feeding, you see, Austin, I think Belle are in like the living room and hallway. Harry is in the kitchen, and he takes this guy and he props him up on a chair, and he starts looking in like the cabinets, and he finds a thermos. He puts the thermos underneath him, and he just bleeds him out. And Austin sees it, and he's like, "Well, that's an interesting way to handle things or go about like you're feeding. Like that's new. I haven't seen that before." And when they get back into the car, Belle and Austin call him out. They're like, "So who's the blood for?" And he's like, "What do you mean it's for me?" They're like, "We know it's not for you. Who is the blood for?" He's like, Alma, and they're like, are you kidding me? Like, no, that needs to stop immediately. Like, she can never take the pill ever again. And if you don't listen to us, like, we will kill both of you. Like, no matter. Like, we will knock you both off. So you go, you do what you gotta do, but no more of that. Like, this is supposed to be an inclusive club, real small. Like, we don't want the pill going all over the place, let alone ending up inside a child. Like, none of that. So Harry, is like, okay. They drop him off. He goes inside. And, Belle and Austin are just like, he's forcing her hand. We're going to have to kill both of them. Like, it doesn't even matter, like, that we just told him to make it stop. She knows if that gets out, we're going to have to kill both of these people. So they take off. And then we flash to the next day. Micky is under the docks looking for a kill of his own. And he stumbles into this tweaker that apparently is somebody he knows because he calls him by name. He's like, "Yo, Micky, man, like, you looking for... I ain't got nothing, man." And, like, Micky, not being coordinated or strong by any measure, like, takes out the knife and, like, does a couple slashes. And the dude's like, "Are you serious?" Punches him in the face and almost knocks him out. And then Micky gets up, tries to go again. He kicks him, knocks him down a few times. And he's just like, "Stay down, Micky. Like, this is crazy. Like, you would jump me. Like, just stay down." As he tries to just walk away from it, Micky tackles him, which leads to, like, this spinning brawl that lands in the sand as the waves are coming in, man. So like they're right on the edge of like where the sand is just constantly wet, but there's not always water, and they're fighting. And as it's coming in, like the guy gets Micky down, and he's trying to drown him, and you're seeing the waves come over his face, and you're like, "Geez, this is not good." And Micky gets out the blade that he had, and he stabs homie twice in the side, stabs him in the neck, or maybe bites him in the neck. But gets to a point where like dude is dead, and he's just going to town feeding, and you get this creepy yet gorgeous shot that's an aerial where the camera just comes up and you can see Micky feeding on the dude and the blood just pouring out of his neck and his body, and it's kind of coming around him, and then a wave will wash over him and then just slow pull all the blood back out to sea. It was a gorgeous shot, man. I love it so much. But from there, we see Micky come home, and Belle is just chilling. And she's like, I really don't want to be in this terrible, gross, disgusting apartment, but I am here because I want my pills back. Like, this is not happening. And, Micky comes clean. He's like, I took the pills. Like, I'm writing now. Like, I'm super talented. Like, the agent even, she's like, no, none of this. She's like, none of that. Like, this is not, these pills are just going all over the place in the Cape. Like, none of that. This is stopping now. And she's like, if you want me to supply you with pills, then you're going to have to go kill that that LA agent lady, and you're going to have to kill Harry and his daughter. You kill those three, and we'll call it even. Micky, like, you can tell he is just like, ugh, but goes along with it because he doesn't want to lose the chance of being able to write stuff that's really that good. And so as he leaves, we go and we see the chief and all sorts of people taking the body off of the beach. And all of a sudden, this dude just comes strutting in. Holden Vaughn, which is the first appearance of the season from Dennis O'Hare, who's a wonderful American Horror Story alum. Love everything that he does in and around the show. And here he's an interior designer. You know, he does all of the interior design for most of the chic houses in the Cape. He's usually up in the summer, but his dog just died, so he's staying where he stays in the summer during the winter until he's had a proper amount of time to mourn. And that's one of the back and forths he has with the chief, because she's like he's saying all these things. She's like, I'm sorry, I don't know who you are, or like, what's going on? I've only been here for like a little while. And he's like, yeah, you know, I'm normally here in the summer, but this is what's going on. But I saw everything that happened. And he's like, and it's very, very obvious. He's like, I couldn't make out faces, but it was 100% a gay bashing. And that's all he tells her. And that's really the whole scene, is just like, he's the witness, lays out all the info, and for us just introduces the fact that O'Hare now will start popping up probably in the episodes a little bit more. I'm sure he knows Belle, and I'm just pumped to see like how he'll play into the story as we move forward. But from there, we go to Micky's first stop after talking to Belle, which is Ursula's. And he walks in. Ursula is in the tub. She's relaxing as he comes in. She already knows. She's like, you're not going to kill me. Just sit down. And she's like, look, I understand what you're here for, but, you know, I know that you're a diehard Speed Racer fan. And not that movie needed to be made the first time or the remake, but studios want to bring it back again, and they want your script. And, like, Micky goes from, like, being ready to kill her to sitting down like, wait. You're telling me they're going to greenlight my Speed Racer, script? And, you know, Ursula's like, yeah. Now, if you want that to happen, you need to take me to the source now. And, like, first he's not answering. He's kind of, you know, beating around the bush a little bit. And he's like, look, there's two things that you know here in the Cape. You know, it's like, I think it's something about the pills, but then he's like, you do not go to that house. And Ursula's like, well, if you want your Speed Racer script done, you're going to take me there. And he finally does, and they go to the Chemist's house. This is the first appearance of the Chemist physically that we see, and it's the first time that we get Angelica Ross on screen, and she's wonderful as Ursula kind of spits game at her. You know, she's like, look, I know what the deal is. I know there are pills, and it's not good for my job, for everybody to be talented, but considering how much money the people that you're giving these pills are making off of what they do, you should be making more than what you're making. And I could be like the primo spot in Hollywood for those. And I could be like the direct pipeline to a select amount of writers that'll just make you and me a ton of money, because we'll make money on the front end and on their back end deals. Like, everything they make, we're going to get a percentage of it. And she's like spitting game where, like, I'm sitting there going, well, shoot, like, unless you're worried about, like, maybe Belle and Austin killing you, seems like a pretty good deal. Like, you know, Homegirl's got a nice house, but, like, it is not as nice as it could be based on the millions of dollars that everyone's making off of these pills, with the content that they're creating. But, you know, so, and you get to the spot, it's this wonderful little camera trick that you know, you get Murphy doing here, where it looks like she's kind of contemplating it. And as she goes to answer, all of a sudden, you know, Ursula and Micky are gone, and Belle and Austin are there, and they're like, so did you agree to it? She's like, no, I didn't agree to it. She's like, I like my life the way it is. Small, simple, and quiet, and I want to keep it that way. But I'm telling you guys, there's somebody who knows about the pills who's trying to create a pipeline. Like, you need to go handle some business if you want me to keep making these pills. But no, I'm not going to sell myself out to make more money. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And from there, we go back to Harry's, where he's now called Ursula over to come babysit, because he needs to go out and collect blood for Alma. Like, it is very obvious that even though he says to Belle and Austin that he won't, they're obviously going to keep taking the pills, because he needs to keep taking the pills. So he has Ursula come over. He's like, I'm just going to visit Doris, be a couple hours, and I'll be right back. And he leaves, and Ursula's like, look, Alma, I really do want, like, girl time, but, like, today has been a day Aunt Ursula just needs a quick nap, and then we'll hang out like girl style hardcore. Like, you know, she says to Harry before he leaves, like, I'll teach you how to play gin rummy. So Alma's like, that's fine, like, you know, do whatever. You know, Harry is off, and the next thing that we know is Chief knocking on the door. Alma answers, and, you know, she's like, hey, are, you know, your parents home? And she's like, no, they're out, you know, and the babysitter is upstairs sleeping. She's like, great, I just want to talk to you. She's like, look, I know something wrong happened, and I'm not saying that what you did was wrong, but I think your parents know what's wrong, and I just want to find out what's happening, you know. And the way that Porter really handles herself in this scene, like, you can tell that the chief either has nieces and nephews or has kids of her own or knows how, you know, has had enough interactions with kids as a police officer on how to talk to them. And she's just kind of being very just straightforward. And she's like, look, I just want to try to get to the bottom of things. So Alma's like, okay. And they come into the living room and they sit down and she starts asking questions. And as she's asking Alma questions, Alma had, like, she either grabs or there's something that's sharp near her and she's got a hold of it. And as she's talking, you start to hear, like, Porter's voice, you hear her voice start to drop out and the thudding of her artery, you know, and her heartbeat growing, and you're like, oh my god, this little girl is, no, are they really about to kill, like, Adina Porter right now? Like, is that what is happening? And sure enough, that's 100% what's happening, because right as the chief, like, asks a question when she least expects it, boom, Alma just stabs her right in the jugular, man, and, like, Chief does, like, Porter does just a great job of, like, flailing around, and she falls this way on the table, and the blood is just pouring out of her neck. I think in one of the trailers we saw, like, a shot of somebody with blood coming down their face, like, almost hanging upside down to a degree. This is that shot. It's Porter falling on this table. She's bleeding out. Alma starts going to town, and you're just like, oh my gosh, man. Like, she just killed the police chief. She's just gonna bleed this chief dry, and then by the time Harry's not gonna get back before Ursula. And for a minute I was like, wait, is Ursula gonna find this? What's gonna happen when Ursula finds it? And then, like, we go to Harry coming home. I'm like, has Ursula been asleep this whole time? Forgetting that she knows about the pills. She knows what's going on. So when Harry walks into the house, it's a very normal scene. You know, you got Ursula and Alma. They're playing gin rummy. I think Alma says hi to Dad. Ursula starts to talk to him. She says whatever. And she's like, gin rummy. And he sees the body, and Ursula just kind of looks at him and is like, yeah, I guess we got things to talk about, huh? That's the end of the episode. And I was like, yes, man. Yes. Like, this is where I want to see this type of story going. Like, it was one of those things where I liked the setup, and I liked everything we were getting in episode 2, but up until the very end, I was like, where do you take this story next? Like, where does it really go? And now, much like at the end of episode 2, Alma, she the key to everything that's interesting that's going on in part 1 of Double Feature. Like, she eats the rabbit. What happens next? You get, like, a similar situation where it's like, one of the last shots you see of her is now eating a human, and she sure as hell can kill somebody. She got over that fear real quick, which now makes her kind of dangerous. Like, what does that mean? Like, how does Harry respond to this? Does he try to make it all stop again? Does he just go with it? Does he, like, go get her teeth sharpened? Like, I'm absolutely fascinated to see where we go next. And considering that, like, watching it on Hulu, I'm not watching the previews for the next episode. I'm going into these blind. But for me, so far, out of everything that we've gotten from Double Feature, this has been my favorite thing. I think you have the most amount of your characters and actors really getting to do stuff and really performing at high levels. Your story is getting much more interesting, and once again, like episode 2, you're left in a spot where it's like, I want to push play right now, man. Like, as soon as I'm done with this, I'm gonna be watching that episode the minute that I can sit down and do it. But yeah, this was a rock solid episode for me, a little bit better than the first 2, and if this is the trend for this season, we're headed to a good place. And like I said earlier, like, you can tell Murphy is structuring these as shorter stories. Like, it feels like we are ramping up for the end of this story already, and that's super exciting because it's just got all that excitement and momentum underneath it, and you haven't really had a dip yet. It's just kind of mostly been an all upward path. So I'm pumped to see where we go next with episode 4, but I am all done with my spoiler talk, which means it is your turn now. Keep episode 4 spoilers off of here. I don't want anything spoiled before I watch it, but please feel free to go ham on episode 3. If you want to bring up things from episodes 1 and 2 that may tie into this episode, the things that you were picking up, the things that you were enjoying the most, what is it that you are, most excited about or most disappointed about from the episode and where we are going. Anything you got, good, bad, indifferent, on American Horror Story Double Feature Part 1 Red Tide Episode 3 goes down below in the comments section. As always, I will look forward to talking to you down there. If you enjoyed this video, though, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with the C-Man anytime, we're talking American Horror Story Double Feature. We got What Ifs on Wednesdays. You just like what I'm doing around general TV and movie reviews, trailer reactions. You want to show a little love, support to this guy? Come join C-Maniac Nation, man. All you got to do is jump over there, hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell if you want those alerts. And until next time, for the C-Man's Cinema, sit down. I've been the C-Man, and I'm signing off. Peace. Oh, hey, what's going on? You must be sticking around because you're looking for more content featuring this guy. Well, guess what? You're in the right place. You can check out more videos right here and right here. And if you have and you want to come join that C-Maniac Nation, you can hit that subscribe right over there.